Happy holidays, everyone, but more importantly, happy Rusev Day. Welcome to NoDQ video, episode number 1025. As I do every 25 videos, this will be an extended edition. I have a lot of your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift, questions regarding the fallout from Clash of Champions, Royal Rumble, and a lot more. So let's get right down to it. First one today comes from Smirtaza. By the way, Smirtaza, you might want to slow down with the questions a little bit. I'm trying to answer as many different questions from different people as possible. I appreciate your passion, but you've been sending me a lot of questions lately, and I want to try and answer some different questions from different people. Try to think of one really good question to send me instead of like 5 in a row. Anyways, your question. If Daniel Bryan gets cleared to return, do you see him winning the Royal Rumble and facing AJ Styles at WrestleMania? I would love to see Bryan versus AJ at WrestleMania. It's a very solid replacement for AJ versus Nakamura if Bryan gets cleared by WWE. What do you think? And hashtag I asked a Goldberg question. He says I asked Goldberg question, but there's a lot of Goldberg questions. Anyways, Daniel Bryan in the Royal Rumble. I think that is something that is perhaps wishful thinking. Now, never say never. Maybe that's where this is going. Maybe we will see Daniel Bryan in the Royal Rumble. However, let me just throw this out there. If Daniel Bryan is in fact going to wrestle again in WWE, it feels like WWE is building towards Daniel Bryan versus Shane McMahon. Why would they be doing this storyline and have Bryan face somebody else? That would not make sense. If, and this is a big if, Daniel Bryan is competing at WrestleMania, Joseph Maroon, WWE's doctor, is going to clear him. My feeling is it's going to be Bryan versus Shane McMahon. That's what makes sense from a storyline perspective. And if that's the case, let's just say for argument's sake that WWE is going to do Bryan versus Shane at WrestleMania, then there's no need for Bryan to be in the Royal Rumble because that would give the fans a false hope of him winning it. And then what happens when he doesn't win it? It's the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia. Might not be a happy situation in Philadelphia if Bryan enters the Rumble and then gets eliminated. So I think it's unlikely. Even if Bryan wrestles again, I think it's unlikely he would win the Royal Rumble and go on to face AJ. Maybe another time. If Bryan can wrestle again and can wrestle for a long period of time, maybe next year's WrestleMania, who knows? But it would, first of all, I think it's a big if Daniel Bryan is even wrestling again. I would not get my hopes up on that. But even if it does, I don't think WWE would do that match. I think they would do Bryan versus Shane, which is what they've been doing with the storyline, building up towards some sort of confrontation, some kind of conflict between Bryan and Shane. This one comes from Cruz. There's no Raw pay-per-view until the Royal Rumble. Do you think a title change can happen at Raw's 25th anniversary, which I'm going to? Please answer in video. Well, keep in mind that Raw 25 is only like a week before the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. It's actually the go-home Raw before the pay-per-view, so it's not like it's that much sooner than the Rumble pay-per-view to do a title change. Now, with that being said, I would not rule out a title change at Raw 25. It is a very special edition of Raw. You want to go all out for this show. And also keep in mind, now that WWE is doing a Women's Royal Rumble, you don't necessarily need to have a women's title match on the show. You could do a women's title match on Raw and do a title change there. That's a possibility. So I could see a title potentially changing hands at Raw 25 in a match that under normal circumstances would have been at the Royal Rumble, but because this is going to be a loaded Rumble, not just with the men's match, but now the women's match as well, that opens the door to do a title match at the Raw 25 special and maybe do a title change, you know? Do something special for Raw 25. I think it would be a good idea to do at least one title change on Raw 25 and have something memorable. I like the idea. This one comes from the NoDQ guy. The commentators keep saying Roman possibly retired The Undertaker. Assuming WWE wants Taker to have one more match, if so, how about at Raw 25, the Authors of Pain debut and destroy Undertaker and Kane to set up a tag match at WrestleMania to make the BOD retire the AOP can get a huge rub. Here's my take on The Undertaker, and I think I did mention this on a recent video. I'm not sure if it was NoDQ video or NoDQ live. If Undertaker has one more match, and that's a big if, I think the idea in having the announcer say possibly is to keep the door open for a final match from The Undertaker. I don't think it should happen personally. If it does, let's just say for argument's sake that it does happen, I don't think The Undertaker should lose again. I think he should go out on top if he's even going to bother having one more match. He had that big match with Reigns, he lost, he left his gear in the ring, you know, he went out in defeat like a man. How do you top that? You have Undertaker lose again? For me, it doesn't work. If he comes back for one more match, which I don't think he should, but if he does, I think he should be winning. And I think a team like Authors of Pain could still get the rub just being in the match, but I would like to see Undertaker win his match, and if he's teaming with Kane, have him and Kane win and give them a nice send-off. They win their final match, they go out in glory. So that's what I would like to see if WWE does decide to have Undertaker wrestle one more time. Got this one here from Rooster, at I Don't Hate Roman. There you go. He likes Roman, so you guys can go ahead and send him messages. Hey Aaron, how's it going? Going good? Happy holidays? So seeing as how Roman Reigns is near guaranteed the Universal title after WrestleMania 34, who do you see as his first opponent after Lesnar? Any big heel turn for someone fresh to face him, perhaps? Maybe Finn Balor? I mean, you could always potentially turn Balor, or at least do a babyface versus babyface match after WrestleMania. I would like to see Balor get his shot, and that might be Balor's only opportunity after WrestleMania. WWE not wanting to put Balor in the main event plans, but after WrestleMania, Reigns will need some opponents. And looking at the list of guys in WWE, you could potentially turn Dean Ambrose heel, have Reigns versus Ambrose. WWE might do Reigns versus Strowman again, Reigns versus Joe again. So Reigns will have opponents if in fact he does win the title, which if WWE is doing Reigns versus Lesnar, I would expect that to happen. Got this one here from It's the Costanza. Hey Aaron, do you think the Steve Austin versus Bret Hart 1997 feud should be known as the kickoff start to the entire Attitude Era, and should it get more recognized as a history changer? Thanks again. Well, I think it gets recognized a good amount, and certainly on NoDQ.com, I give it about as high praise as possible. You guys know that have been following me. That's my all-time favorite match. I think it was the most important match in WWE history in a sense of establishing Steve Austin as a top-level superstar, a main event superstar, sealing the deal with the fans, making Austin, in their eyes, the toughest SOB in wrestling. As far as the start of the Attitude Era, that's a big debate. You know, most people look at Vince McMahon's promo December 97 when he did that backstage pre-taped promo talking about how the days of the superhero saying his prayers and taking his vitamins have been passé and that sort of thing. That is when people consider the official start of the Attitude Era. But you could go back as far as WrestleMania 13. You could go back as far as Brian Pillman pulling the gun on Steve Austin. You could go even further back to the Jim Ross promo, the worked shoot promo he did the night after Mind Games, when he came out there and brought out the fake Razor Ramon, and he publicly acknowledged Vince McMahon as the real owner of the WWE. So there are several segments during that period that really started to get the ball rolling with the Attitude Era. And definitely Austin versus Hart was a very critical moment in changing the image of WWE and taking it in a whole new direction. This one comes from Sean. What do you think about Apollo Cruz and One Lorcan competing on indie shows while also signed to WWE? Do you think more talents will get that kind of opportunity, similar to Chris Jericho going against Kenny Omega for Wrestle Kingdom 12? Well, there is a difference here. These are indie shows, not Wrestle Kingdom 12, which is New Japan Pro Wrestling, arguably the biggest promotion in the world next to WWE. So there is a difference there, but you know, it's fine. I think WWE doesn't have a problem with it because it is a smaller show, and Apollo Crews has nothing going on right now. He's part of Titus brand, but that's pretty much just an opening match storyline that's going on right now. WWE's attitude is, hey, let's do something with Apollo. If he wants to work other shows and we can develop relationships with other promotions, then let's do it. You know, Triple H has been very hands-on with having good working relationships with indie promotions and, you know, trying to use them as little developmental territories in addition to NXT and recruiting talent. You know, it's just a good way to develop the relationships with these promotions by sending out WWE talent to these shows. So I think it's smart business by WWE. If you're not doing anything with Apollo Crews, then lend them out to smaller promotions and, you know, work with those guys so, you know, they have some young talent. You might be able to bring them in and recruit them. Got this next one here from 40KEI. So Jinder Mahal's best match despite a flat crowd. And he's talking about the Clash of Champions pay-per-view, of course. Would you have booked the end of the show differently with a new challenger stepping in after the match finished to make a statement to AJ, adding more intrigue going into 2018? I understand what you're saying there. I think that it would have been a nice ending to have AJ win the match, of course, and then have somebody come out, AJ's next challenger, maybe tease something big for the Royal Rumble, maybe have multiple people come out and confront AJ Styles. Just something as a little cliffhanger. I do miss those in general. Back in the day, we would see somebody come out and be on the ramp and have a stare down to end a pay-per-view or end Raw, end SmackDown, to create a little more intrigue and keep the fans guessing what's going to happen next. I think I would have liked that, considering that the end was pretty flat, even though I was happy to see AJ retain the title. I think it would have been nice to have a little surprise, and it would be a good thing every now and then to have a surprise, have somebody show up, a new challenger, and have them confront the champion to close the show. Got this one here from Answer Me Aaron. This guy knows how to get his questions answered. When Big Show's contract runs up in February, would you like to see him have a career-threatening match against Braun Strowman or Brock Lesnar at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view to put one of them over, then join the Raw or SmackDown commentary team or even a pre-show analyst? Who knows what's going to happen with Big Show at this point? You know, he had his hip surgery, and you never know if he'll come back and do more matches or if he's definitely winding it down now. It would be nice, again, with Kane, it would be nice to have Big Show get a cool send-off and maybe one more WrestleMania match, win at WrestleMania, and then go off into the sunset. Maybe win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I mean, he might as well at this point, since the winner doesn't really go anywhere. I would like to see Big Show have a nice send-off, regardless of what it is. And then afterwards, yeah, I mean, you could definitely have him continue to work in WWE in some capacity, maybe do commentary or do the pre-shows. You know, Big Show's a really entertaining guy, so I could definitely see him doing that. And I think he'll always be in that good ambassador role for WWE, you know, like what Hulk Hogan does, and he'll show up every now and then on a Raw special, you know, a Legend special or an old school special. So I think we'll still see Big Show every now and then. He'll do the Access appearances. He'll still have a role in WWE in some way without wrestling on a regular basis. Got this one here from Mr. Yuck. Vince McMahon likes to emulate rival company ideas. With Dalton Castle's rise in ROH, might WWE push Velveteen Dream in similar fashion, or should they sign Dalton instead? I honestly don't know if Vince really does pay attention to Ring of Honor. I think if anybody was going to pay attention, it would be Triple H. I think Vince more or less focuses on what he's doing. Then again, maybe he does and he just doesn't want to admit it. I don't know. I don't necessarily see Velveteen Dream getting a push because Dalton Castle got a push in Ring of Honor. That I don't see happening. You know, I don't think WWE will necessarily copy Ring of Honor just for the heck of it. And you know, some people, I know Virtue over on NoDQ.com, Virtue's Rage, of course. He likes to say that WWE copies Kenny Omega and New Japan, and the more Omega gets pushed, this is his theory, the more Omega gets pushed, the more AJ gets pushed, and WWE has to try and top New Japan, and that's why we had the club after the Bullet Club got famous. So, you know, there might be some influence with New Japan, but I think if there is, it's probably more Triple H's influence than anything else. Triple H being influenced by them and then making the changes in WWE and tweaking things that way. But you never know. You never know what Vince is being influenced by these days. You really don't. This one comes from TJS, our own chat moderator. Is it just me, or has Eric Young's WWE run been a disappointment so far? I feel like him leading a faction is holding him back from being the great single star we know he is. Alright, you might not like my response, but I think Eric Young is exactly where he should be in WWE. Is he a main event star? Honestly, I don't think so. I think he's a solid performer, good promo, but I don't see that greatness in him. I don't see him coming in and being potentially WWE champion. I'm not sure if that's what you're alluding to. I think he's a solid hand. I think he's very good. But I think he's being pushed right at the level he should be pushed at. He goes to the main roster. I think he will be a solid mid-carder. I don't see him doing anything else more than that. So it might be an unpopular response to that question, but that's how I see it. I just don't see the big dollar signs in Eric Young. I never really have. You know, when TNA made him the world champion, honestly, I thought it watered down the title by making Eric Young champion. You know, it felt like they were giving him the title because of his loyalty to the company for so many years rather than his actual drawing power and being a marketable star. I just don't see the big star power in him. This one comes from Lester. What do you think about Vince McMahon's explosion in 2007? At the time, I thought it was interesting. I did think it was a bit over the top, of course. If the Chris Benoit stuff had not gone down, I think the end result would have been that Vince revealed he faked his death, and that would have been the storyline, and they would have gone in that direction with the illegitimate son. And, you know, I think looking back on it, they were going to do some sort of funeral on Raw for Vince. They were going to go all out with it. It might have been really interesting, but at the same time, it might have been a complete train wreck also. And, you know, in the end, we ended up with Hornswoggle being Vince's son and then being revealed as Finley's son. The whole thing was really lame. But, you know, I'll give WWE a pass on that because they had to come up with something after the Chris Benoit stuff happened. But even if the Benoit stuff hadn't happened, oh, and let's not forget Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy was originally going to be Vince's illegitimate son in the storyline. So who knows? It's one of those what-if questions you just don't know if it would have turned out to be a successful angle. But my opinion, when it happened, I thought, yeah, this is interesting, but at the same time, this is really dumb. This one comes from Eric Cruz. Name a couple of wrestlers from any era who you thought were going to be major stars in WWE because they were hyped up or given strong early pushes only to flame out. Ahmed Johnson definitely is at the top of that list. When Ahmed came in, late 95, I thought that guy was going to be a really big deal. But then he got injured, he came back, he got injured again. His promos were not good, his matches were not good, and he just slowly fizzled out. Mr. Kennedy, as I just mentioned in that previous question, I thought he was going to be a huge star. You know, right from the get-go, he came out, he did his own entrance, the ring announcing. I thought it had money potential. I thought he was going to be a big star. WWE was giving him all these opportunities, Money in the Bank. As I mentioned before, he was going to be Vince's illegitimate son, but then he got hurt, then he got suspended, and it was just one thing after another, and he also fizzled out. MVP is another guy around that time as Mr. Kennedy. I thought MVP had a lot of potential to be a main event star, but then they did this losing streak angle with him, and he fizzled out. So there's a lot of guys over the years that got off to really red-hot starts, but then they just could not maintain that momentum. Ted DiBiase Jr. is another great example. You know, between him and Cody Rhodes, I thought Ted DiBiase was going to be the big star of the team, and it ended up being Cody, and Ted DiBiase just faded away and disappeared from the business. So, you know, you never know who's going to be the big star when it's all said and done. You just don't. It's really hard to call. This one comes from Oscar. With the possible return of the XFL, could you see Vince make a partnership with the NFL and have the XFL be the NFL's version of NXT? Sometimes college players are not ready for the NFL and they could start off in the XFL to get drafted to a pro team. I really don't know much about football, so it's hard for me to answer this question. I don't think the NFL would go for it. I don't think that they would be interested, quite frankly, but what do I know? I don't think Vince would go for that. My gut feeling is Vince wants to be the brand. He doesn't want to be somebody's developmental brand or developmental league. I think if Vince is going to get involved in football again, he's going to want to go all in and try to make it the biggest thing possible and compete. Vince wants to be number one. He has that number one mentality. So is Vince really going to get into football just to be a developmental league for the NFL? Knowing Vince and his ego, I don't think he would do that. And I have no idea how the NFL would feel, but my gut feeling is they're not interested. This one comes from NoDQ Rules, another guy who knows how to get his answers, or questions answered, excuse me. If you could rebook any feud in 2017 in WWE, what would it be? Mine would have been Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Should have made Bray a stronger WWE champion, and also adding Luke Harper to the match at WrestleMania 33 could have been better than what we got. Agree with this 100%. This would in fact be my choice. I talked about this months ago with Luke Harper. WWE should have called an audible. When Luke Harper was getting those reactions prior to WrestleMania, WWE should have just added him to that match. There are some things I would have changed differently. I would have had Bray do more dastardly things to Randy Orton, so when Orton finally got to setting Wyatt's house on fire, the fans would not have felt as sympathetic towards Bray. I mean, I think WWE told that story poorly because there were fans feeling that Orton was being a heel by doing that, and it shouldn't have been that way. And then, of course, the WrestleMania match, I would have totally eliminated the bugs and all that crap. It would have been a brawl. It would have been no DQ. I mean, this was a grudge match. Randy Orton set Wyatt's house on fire. This is a match where these guys are going to be brawling. This is going to be very personal, and I would have just made it intense, them fighting all over the place, using weapons, hardcore action. Just make it the most intense match possible at WrestleMania. Go all out. Instead, we got this lame, glorified SmackDown TV match with bugs on the ring. Really lame stuff. And then, of course, House of Horrors. The whole thing was just not good. I think House of Horrors was an interesting concept worth trying, but the feud was already so damaged by that point. I feel like that hurt it. Maybe if the feud was more intriguing leading up to it, people would have accepted the House of Horrors match more. But yeah, I would have definitely made some changes with that storyline. It started off good, but then it really turned into a disaster and one of the worst WWE storylines of the year. Oh, and you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, another one would be Jason Jordan and Kurt Angle. I think WWE has totally dropped the ball with this. I think Jordan should have just turned heel already and revealed that he was setting up Kurt Angle and it was all done so Jordan could elevate his career. He was lying about it. I would have done something like that. I think the way WWE has done it, it just hasn't been working. But then again, WWE might feel, hey, Jason Jordan is getting reactions from people now, so in their eyes, maybe it is working. But yeah, I would have done the Jordan Angle thing differently. Got this one here from Bader the Viper. Hey Aaron, if Nakamura versus Styles does not happen, how excited would you be for a heel Randy Orton challenging AJ Styles for the title at WrestleMania 34? They've yet to cross paths since the brand split, and I think they would deliver a good match and feud. I'm pretty sure they had a match already on television, but yeah, they have not had a definitive pay-per-view match, and that would be a very solid option. I still think I would rather see AJ Styles versus Nakamura, and maybe even AJ Styles versus John Cena more than AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. But I definitely feel it would be a solid match. At this point, Randy Orton's status in WWE is up in the air. He's got a lot of time off in early 2018, so who knows what he's going to be doing for WrestleMania. But at some point, whether it's WrestleMania or at a later time, I would love to see a proper, full-blown AJ Styles versus Randy Orton feud. I definitely think it should happen. Got this one here from the 4Got101. Hey Aaron, love the show with the recent comment by Conor McGregor. Did you really think that WWE really had a chance to work with McGregor? As much as I would love to see that happen, I knew it wouldn't because the trash talk that McGregor said towards WWE in the past. And this is a first-time asker. If anything prevents Conor McGregor from working in WWE, it's the money. He made a ton of money, as we all know, more than I think everyone watching this video combined would make in a lifetime. I mean, he made an insane amount of money for that fight with Floyd Mayweather. No doubt about it. He's doing the whole thing where he's insulting WWE and he's saying "Fuck WWE" and all that stuff. He's saying that to potentially build up to a WWE run. You know, he wants to create controversy. He's working people. That's what he does. He knows how to make money. He knows how to promote. He knows the pro wrestling shtick and what to do to get people interested and spending money and piquing interest. McGregor knows what he's doing. He's a seasoned pro. So he's just working everybody with those comments. I think if WWE made him the right offer, he would take it, he would show up. But it's going to take a lot. McGregor is going to want his full value, what he feels he's worth. And let's face it, it's a lot right now. WWE might want to wait 5 years till his stock cools down a little bit and make him an offer then. We'll see. Never say never. It could happen at some point, but the question is, can WWE make him the right offer to do it? That remains to be seen. That'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ Video. Thank you guys for all of your support. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's video, please share it on social media. Pick up a NoDQ shirt. We have 18 designs over at ProWrestlingTees.com. Search NoDQ or check out the link in the description box. Check out the other videos on NoDQ. Lots more content coming up very soon. Stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already at youtube.com/AaronRift.NoDQ. Again, happy holidays. Have a safe holiday weekend, and I will see you guys next time.